Welcome everyone, and welcome back to Forward Operating Base Lake Fork. This is your FISHREP for the 28th of June, the week ending on 28th of June. I'm here at the beautiful FOB Lake Fork, headquarters, and which is my boat. Speaking of my boat, I want to mention a couple of my sponsors here. So, Diamond Sports Marine in Yantis, Texas. It's who I got my brand new 2020 FXR 21 from. I got a 250 SHO on here. What a great fishing machine. You can't really call this a boat. It's like I flew Harriers in the Marines, and it's like calling a Harrier an airplane. It's not really an airplane. It's a war machine that can fly. This is a bass fishing machine that can float and go fast. So I try not to call it a boat very often. It slips out every once in a while. But if you're in the market for a bass fishing machine and you're looking for a skeeter, get a hold of Fred over at Diamond Sports Marines. Or they do Rangers also, so you can compare and contrast the two lines of the boats there. They get a hold of Fred, and hopefully he can work something out for you. They have great service. They take care of them great. And then secondly, TFO rods. So Temple Fork Outfitters. They're a Dallas company. I became introduced to their equipment about 5 years ago, and really I've transferred every rod in my boat right now, except one of my push button rods is a TFO rod. So Temple Fork Outfitters. They have a no-fault warranty. It's a great product. It's at a great price point. They have different grade, different levels of rod for you. So depending on how much you want to spend, but they have great rods at all those different price points. And look, I can't say enough. They've helped me out, and they're great people. So it's a Dallas local company. So if you're in the Dallas area, it's really would benefit you to probably work your rods, purchase your rods through them. So anyway, now I'll get on to FISHREP. So. Look, I fished day fishing and night fishing this week, so that's why there's this big variation. I caught fish in a lot of different places, a lot of different techniques. So I'm going to go through them just real quick. But really starting out in the morning again, starting out on not really on main points. I haven't been fishing on main. I'm kind of running on some secondary points that have some creeks near them that run up into basically a gut that's on this big shallow flat area. That's really been one of my primary spots. I have 3 of them that are like that. I go up there. I think the fish are moving up. You can still see on my electronics. I can still see the shad swimming through the area. Of course, the shad spawn should be done now, but there's still some shad moving to those areas. They're in the deeper water when you come up, but they're still pushing them up in these shallows. So what am I throwing? Well, I'm actually throwing some top water. So I've got again the walking baits. I'll show you all these, and again. I don't mention the brand names, but look, you guys see them. You probably know exactly what it is, but the shad color, walking bait. I'm showing the 4-inch. Now, I started throwing this week. It hadn't been a while since I threw it, but look, it's hard to describe what it is. It's it's a whopper fobber. So, I'm throwing the bone color. I'm throwing the small one, and I've caught some fish on that. I've tried throwing the bigger one, and I had 1 or 2 bites. They were bigger fish, but I didn't catch as many, so I kind of went back to the smaller one. I'm throwing a jerk bait. Just working it shallow, bringing it through small. I get more bites. I'm getting more bites when I'm working it slowly than doing a really quick strike, really quick presentation. The slower presentation seems to be working better. Hey, look, of course, the 2 standbys. I've got a shad pattern lipless crankbait, and I've got my Old Faithful, which is that barfish pattern lipless crankbait. So you can't even buy these anymore. I got a secret stash of them, but I just found out I got a new supplier, and actually has had some. I'm trying to work a deal I can buy some more of those things. But throwing those up there, working through the quicker retrieve on the lipless crankbait was working. The slower retrieve for the most part wasn't working as much this week, so I'm not really sure what the change is, but that's just kind of varying the retrieve. That's what we end up finding out. Okay, so we catch the fish up in the shallow water. Then what do? Well, you move out a little bit. We're doing that. So I threw some crankbaits this week, and I did catch some deeper fish on a big DD10. Basically the standard blueback color, and caught some that way. The biggest one was just 3.5 pounds. So haven't really tied into a big fish on it yet, but I know that some were following it because I was using my electronics. I had quite a few fish following it, but just not committing to it. And then really I changed over to a worm bite in the same area and getting bit on the worm. So we get off that main shallow area. Then I'm looking for basically a bunch of crappie stacks. Really, I'll go out and find the crappie stacks in the trees, brush piles. And generally speaking, you're going to find some bigger bass near those areas. You're going to find the bass there. Plus, they're just bass that hang out in these brush piles anyway. So what do I throw to catch those bass in the brush piles? Well, pretty much the best fish was basically like a 8-inch long, ribbon-tailed, red and kind of burgundy colored worm, on it. I'm using the red hooks, kind of go along with it. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I use those when I'm fishing the redder baits. And then look, I'm throwing another ribbon tail worm, smaller, that is in a motor oil color. So it's got a little bit of, the tail's pretty much seems like it's chartreused already, and it's got that brown color in it. So that's what I'm throwing. These baits with a lighter weight, you can let it go down through those trees and the brush piles and work them through there without getting hung up. I'm throwing the bigger worms in there also. So I've got a big, 8-inch long, green with blue specks, bait. You can see it's got just a little kicker tail on it. And, I can take that and throw that down in the brush piles also with it takes a heavier weight to get it down there. And sometimes the heavier weights are getting hung up a little more. And of course, then the other weights, the other worms I'm throwing down there, where I've got basically a pumpkin seed, 8-inch little floating worm. It's like a trick worm. I'll either throw it on a Texas rig or also throw it on a drop shot. And I'll go with the larger one, supersized one also, same exact color, throwing it, letting that worm kind of bouncing around with the drop shot and the Texas rig. Now, honestly, this week I didn't catch any big fish or good fish on a big 10-inch worm this week. We threw it and it just didn't happen. I didn't get the bite on the big 10-inch worm. But we went to a number of stacks. I had the one guy trip I had. It was really fun because it had 2 young men on my boat, and another boat had two other his brothers in it, and they're having a big competition. They're fishing for the boats, and we caught fish. We caught fish early, and then I was talking to the other guy, and he kept telling me, look, I didn't tell we had. He was telling me they didn't have as many fish, so I kind of played up that we need to get more weight. So for my guys to keep them moving, keep them motivated, and keep the fishing high levels of fishing. So we went up and fished some brush piles, and we would pull up and catch 1 or 2 fish at the brush pile, then move on. The crappie brush piles weren't holding a lot of fish, but you could go there and catch a good fish. And we were upgrading. We were kind of culling out some fish at that point because we're doing a 5-fish limit catch. So we were culling the fish. But look, the other thing, jig, of course, I throw in the big 1 ounce, basically just football head jig, throwing on some of the points. Now, I wasn't with a guy, but I was doing it a guide trip, but I was doing it myself. I caught 2 fish doing that. Working him through the trees with that football head, I had better bites with a football head, even working through the trees for some reason. Maybe it was heavier. The other jig I was throwing was half the weight. It was a 1/2 ounce. And maybe I should have thrown a heavier bait, the same exact colors, to get down in there. But I was throwing the lighter one, and trying to work it through the trees. And I didn't get bit. It seemed like I got bit on the heavier bait, knocking it up against the branches. I'd bring it in the branches, I'd knock it. I'd bring it right up against there and knock, and shake it, knock, and basically put it right up against the branch. And then I could let it sit there. Every once in a while, my electronics, I could actually see the fish come up, watch it. I would be knocking it, and I could watch them hit it. So it's pretty great being able to watch that and see how the fish are reacting to your baits when you're doing that. Okay, so for the most part, I think I've covered all the baits. One more. So throwing some flukes. So again, this is like a motor oil colored fluke. Throwing that and getting bit on that on a drop shot. So that was a drop shot bite. The other big bait was throwing a hollow body swim bait through the trees, weighted hook, throw it out there, let it fall down through those branches, and then work it back through the branches on these big lay down trees that are in 20 feet of water. You let it go all the way down there, work that through the trees, and you'll get bit on that. So I had some good bites on that this week, later in the week. Okay, so that's pretty much my day fishing. So night fishing. Had a lot of fun night fishing this week. I was just kind of really out, continuing to keep scouting out areas and some places I've been before, but kind of looking at new spots. And pretty much when there's no moon out, I focus on the dock lights. If there's a moon out, then I'll go back out to these shallow areas on these points and throw some big spinner baits, with big Colorado blades on them, dark colors, and work them through there. And I like the spinnerbait and a big 10-inch worm, like a big dark blue or black worm on those areas too. I don't have those out, but that doesn't take much imagination to see. But you throw those out there on these points, and I don't know, 4 to 6 feet of water, seem to be the best depths for me. On a moonlit night, I was getting bit on those. But around the dock lights, that seems to be that, if you throw something that has too much rattle in it, I don't think the bass seem to like it very much. I like to go with a quieter lure in the evening time around those lights. I think the fish are pretty spooky around them. I think they get a lot of lures cast at them. They probably get hooked over and over again maybe. And they associate that noise with the lure. So I try to stick with even crankbaits that have smaller rattles, tiny rattles in them, not a lot of noise. I don't have much luck with the lipless crankbaits at night, it seems for me. But I try it, and I've actually watched the fish spook off a little bit. So I'll sit there for 5 minutes, and then the fish will kind of come back, and I can go into the lures, lure selection again. But hey, so what am I doing? I'm throwing kind of a white crankbait, dives down like 4 to 6 feet. Now sometimes that bait, for every bass I catch 5 sand bass, big sand bass. So you got to work your way through the sand bass sometimes in some of these places. But a swim bait, a nice white swim bait, work through it quickly, seems to be a good bait because it doesn't make any noise. It's just coming through the water. It doesn't create any ruckus. They feel it coming because of the kick, but they won't do that. And then trying to throw a bladed jig also has worked in that same scenario. And then realistically, the most luck I've had, and I think it's because right now the bass, everything that's in these lights right now, what I've seen the last 2 nights, they've been eating these smaller shad. When I catch them, they cough them up in my boat. I should have kept some. I had a bunch in here last night. I could have showed them to you. But so the smallest thing I've got that kind of resembles it, I got these really tiny Senkos, kind of a white color, bone color, and this silver color. And I'll throw that on a small hook that's not going to weight it down, and I basically swim it right through the light area, just real slow. They're not chasing these baits. I mean, you'll see them. These bait aren't moving real fast and running away. They're just coming right behind them and eating them and eating and eating them. It's just a steady eating all night long of these fish. So eating all these bait fish. So look, that's what I've been doing. I put some pictures on Instagram. You guys can see the fish I'm catching at nighttime and during the day. Look, I've got guide trips. I've got open days here in July. So please contact me. 972-824-4774. You can go to my website, www.FOBLakeFork.com, of course, Ford Operating Base Lake Fork. And send me a message. Let me know what dates you're interested in, and we can work out some times. But I'm doing day trips, evening trips, and night trips. So please see my website. Send me a date request, and we'll see if we can work something out. My Airbnb, look, it's all booked up for July. I mean, I have 4 days left in July. If you're really interested, it's later in the month. It's the 21st, I think, to the 25th. So please take a look there and see if those dates work out for you. We already have some people that have called, they're interested in it. But look, we're running out real quick, and I'm already getting reservations in August, September, and October. So if you want to come out here to the lake and spend some time at a lakefront property in a custom apartment, where all you got to do is walk down here to the dock and enjoy your time fishing and have some peace and quiet, look, check my place out on Airbnb. Again, go to my website, www.FOBLakeFork.com, and see the link, or go to Airbnb and just search for Lake Fork Hideaway. That's it. So thanks again for spending the time with me, and I hope I passed on at least some good information and where to fish. And I did want to mention, I'll go back one thing. So look, we got some rain this week. And one of the things that I always do when I get some rain, and I did this when I was fishing with these young men that I had on a guide trip that day. We had some big rain the earlier day. So I said, look, it takes a while to get back in the very back of these creeks sometimes, but when you get a big rain, sometimes that cooler water, that water that comes in the back of these creeks, the shad and all the bait fish are going to go back there, and we went straight back to a place and we caught fish right away doing it. So look, if you're out somewhere and it's been raining, pay attention to where these drainage ditches are. Pay attention to where these outlets for some kind of overflow for the water coming into the lake. take a look at that and memorize it. And so the next time you're out and you get a good rain and it's the next day, I don't really do it on that day, but it's the next day, go check that spot out and see if you can't find some. We caught fish right away doing it. It'll just concentrate the fish for you a little bit, give you a better target set.